Hi, this is Mike from BandLab. Did you know BandLab has a desktop application that you could use to find free sounds no matter what DAW you use? In this video, we'll show you how to find sounds and make a beat in Ableton Live using BandLab Assistant. If you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. BandLab Assistant gives you quick access to your BandLab library, BandLab Sounds, and BandLab Mastering, all in one convenient and free desktop application. You can find a link to the download page in this video's description, or you can just Google BandLab Assistant. Once installed, the app will prompt you to log into your BandLab account. When you've done that, you'll be able to use the app. You can select BandLab Library, BandLab Sounds, and BandLab Mastering tabs at the top of the application. Let's open the BandLab Sounds tab. This works just like BandLab Sounds does in BandLab Studio. So, if we want to make a trap beat, just enter trap into the text search field, and we're presented with a list of trap packs and individual samples. Let's open the Turbo Trap Pack. We can audition sounds by clicking their play buttons. I like the sound of Turbo Trap Synth 36, so I drag it onto the audio track in my DAW. I set my DAW's project tempo to 140 beats per minute to play the sample back at its original tempo. As well as the tempo, BandLab Assistant also tells us the key of the sample, which in this case is F minor. Next, let's add some drums. I can filter the Turbo Trap Pack's contents using the Instruments filter. I set this to drum. I like Turbo Trap Drums 5, so I drag that onto another audio track in the project. I feel like the synth is slightly too loud for the drums, so I reduce its track volume to -4.5 dB. I'd like to add an 808 bass part next. In BandLab Assistant, I click the One Shots tab so I can find a suitable 808 bass drum to play back with Ableton Live's sampler instrument. I enter 808 into the text search field and audition some of the samples. I like the sound of 808 Zay, so in Live I add an instrument track and drop the sample onto that track. BandLab Assistant tells us that the sample is tuned to C already, which means that we don't have to adjust its tuning in Live's sampler. We could just go ahead and sequence a bass line. I will change the instrument's voices to 1 though, to make sure we can't play any overlapping notes. I compose a bass line that plays F3, F4, G sharp 3, and back to F3. I'd like to warm up this bass line up a touch, so I add Live's saturator effect to the track and set its drive to 5 dB. We can see from Live's master meter turning red that we're now clipping the master, so I turn the track down to -4 dB. Next, I'd like to add some more musical elements. In BandLab Assistant, I click the Loops tab. I delete the search field text, then set the instrument filter to piano and the genres filter to hip-hop trap. Now all the results will be piano samples in a hip-hop trap style. I like the sound of weight-lifted 155 D sharp minor piano's 4-bar. It's not in the correct key or the correct tempo for the project, but let's see how we can make it work with some time stretching and pitch shifting. I drag the sample onto a new audio track in the project, then I warp the clip, setting the segment BPM to 155, the BPM of the sample. I then change the warp mode to complex, which works better with sustained notes. I then set the pitch knob to +2, which transposes the sample from D sharp minor to F minor. I drag out the right edges of the audio clip so that it plays for the whole 4-bar sequence. That sounds okay, but I think it could be improved. First, I set the audio clip to loop mode, then set the loop end marker to the start of bar 3. Now this clip will loop just the first 2 bars of the sample. Next, I want to take out some of the sample's low end so that it doesn't muddy up the mix so much. I add Live's auto filter, put it in high pass mode, and set the filter cutoff frequency to 200 Hz. I like how this is sounding. Let's make a quick arrangement. I start with the drums and synth. After 8 bars, the 808 kicks in. After another 8 bars, I drop the piano sample. On bar 25, I take out the synth sample. 8 bars later, I swap the piano out and put the synth back in. For the outro, the drums leave the mix, and we just have the synth in 808. You can use BandLab Assistant to find samples for whichever DAW you use, so install it today for access to thousands of high-quality free sounds. Have fun!